Greetings, mathematicians. Today we're looking at section 6.2, multiplying and dividing rational expressions. We do need to learn the rules for multiplying rational expressions first before we get into dividing. 3 rules to follow. 1, factor the numerators and denominators. I'm going to ask you to factor them completely, and even using prime factorization for numbers. Then, after everything's factored, simplify any ratios that where you have common identical factors that simplify to 1. Or if you have opposite factors that simplify to -1. And then 3, any factors that remain that didn't simplify, multiply them in the numerator, that's what goes in the numerator. Multiply them in the denominator, that's what goes in the denominator. So let's take a look at example 1a. So I have a fraction times a fraction. That is always going to be numerator times numerator, goes in the numerator. Denominator times denominator, goes in the denominator. But step 1 says to factor. So in the numerator of the first fraction, our GCF is 5. So 5 times a minus b. Divide that by 10, but I'm going to write it in prime factorization, 2 times 5. And then because I'm multiplying another fraction, I'm going to extend my fraction. And 2 is the only factor in the numerator, so it's just going to be times 2. In fact, I'm going to put a times dot symbol for multiplication. 5 times a minus b times 2. And I'm also going to factor the denominator a squared minus b squared, difference of squares, so it factors to its conjugates, a plus b times a minus b, and that's what's going to get multiplied in the denominator. So I'm going to 2 times 5 times a plus b times a minus b. And now everything's been factored. That's step 1. Step 2, simplify. This 5 divided by that 5 simplifies to 1 over 1. This a minus b divided by that a minus b simplifies to 1 over 1. This 2 divided by that 2 simplifies to 1 over 1. So in the numerator, I have all my factors have been simplified to 1 over 1. So what I have in the numerator is just 1. 1 times 1 times 1 gives me 1 in my numerator. In the denominator, I only have one factor that's not 1, that didn't simplify. 1 times 1 times 1, obviously 1, times a plus b. Since it's the only factor that remained after simplifying, the parentheses are not required. So a plus b. If you put them in there, it's not wrong. So 1 divided by a plus b. And one of the tips at the bottom says if all factors in the numerator simplify to 1, do not forget to write the factor of 1 in the numerator, which is exactly what we need to make sure every time we have a problem like that. And that's how you do example 1a.